Hey there, magical experimenters. All right, we're live. Hey, magical experimenters. Taylor Ellwood here, and welcome to the final installment of the Wealth Magic series. And today we're talking about the application of the mundane to wealth magic. And this is really the most important video out of all of them. Not that all of them weren't important. I mean, the first couple videos were kind of really talking about the mindset, the discipline and things like that. And then the last video was talking about magic and applying it. But now we're talking about the mundane. Now, if you're new to this channel, go ahead and click the like button and the subscribe bell so that way you get notified when I do videos. And if you are a frequent flyer here, please like this video and comment on it, and let's get into it. So why is the application of the mundane so important? It might seem like, well, if we're doing wealth magic, why does the mundane matter? Well, the mundane is the foundation on which your wealth magic, and really just magic in general, relies upon. If you don't have your affairs in order in life, then it doesn't matter what you do magically, because you're not gonna have the foundation in place to support the magical work. It's like a person doing love magic, for example, to bring someone into their life. If you haven't done the work on yourself and dealt with your own issues, then it doesn't matter who you bring into your life, because ultimately you're not going to be ready for that person, and you're certainly not going to be able to meet that person in a meaningful way. It's the same thing with wealth magic. The magic that you do on the you can do tons of magic to bring lots of money into your life, but if you don't know how to manage that money, if you don't have the right mundane skills in place, it won't matter. And if you don't have planning, it won't matter. That money will be gone. I saw an article recently where this couple had won, I think it was like $29 million in a lottery, and they had already basically spent it. They didn't even have it that long, and they had already spent it. And it didn't surprise me at all, because if you don't know how to manage money, it doesn't matter how much money comes into your life, you will spend it and you will waste it. And this is true for wealth in general, no matter what the wealth is, whether the wealth is related to your health or the wealth is related to your money or anything else. If you don't have the right mundane skills in place, it doesn't matter what you do, you will end up losing that wealth. I talked in one of the previous videos about a conversation I had with a person where they were saying, I don't really like money, and so I don't like to learn about it. And my response was, well, you have to learn how to manage money. You have to understand the way that, well, I didn't say that, but that was what I was thinking anyway. I didn't tell the person that. I wasn't like, you have to do this, because I mean, that's their issue to deal with, not mine. But I was just like, I was thinking to myself that, like, yeah, you kind of have to, but a lot of people don't. I mean, really, a lot of people never learn how to manage money. They live paycheck to paycheck. And this is true of people of all income levels, by the way. This isn't restricted to people who aren't making a lot of money, which is, I know the first initial thought is, well, it's somebody who's not making a lot of money that has these issues with money. No, I've known people who have made, more money than I'll ever make, who still haven't been able to manage it all that because easy come, easy go. And when you're always when you don't have a good relationship with money and you haven't taken the time to learn how it works, you won't learn what else you need to do with it. So we look at mundane actions, we have to pair those necessarily with our wealth magic. If I'm going to do wealth magic for the purpose of generating some money in order to help my situation out, then I better know what I want to use that money for and how I'm going to take care of it. Now, as all of you know, I've been doing a lot of DoorDash. I've talked about this before. I've been doing a fair amount of DoorDash. And with the DoorDash, some people wonder, well, why are you even doing that, Taylor? And the answer to that is, well, I'm trying to make some extra money. Well, why are you trying to make that extra money? Because, I want to have some financial stability. I've known on the mundane level exactly what I need to do. Now, the other day, a friend of mine pointed out to me, he's like, this last year you had a lot of changes. And he said to me, you moved to a new city, you got a new job, then you got a better paying job, and you wrote books. He's like, and you did that with everything else going on in your life. And he was right. I've done a lot. I mean, I'm pretty proud of myself, actually, all things considered, because I had a somewhat chaotic year. Not surprising, really, in the wake of my divorce and all that. I mean, and also just making some choices that I made. But despite that chaos, I was able to stabilize a lot of my life. And I was able to do this because I had a clear idea of what I wanted to manifest. And more importantly, I had the mundane skills in place. I had read the books on finances. I had read the books on health. I had read all the other things, and I knew what activities to do, and I faithfully executed them. One of the reasons why I've done DoorDash isn't just for the money, it's also to keep myself in shape. On the one hand, I need the money. On the other hand, I actually do a lot of walking with DoorDash. And I will purposely park my car further away so I have to walk further when it comes to delivering the food or picking the food up. Again, it's simple little hacks. But the other thing that I've really the other thing too is that I've used DoorDash to help me with my mental and emotional states of being, because having that time alone in the car to think and work through things has helped a lot. It's kind of helped me get over it's helped me work through a lot of the things that have come up over the past few years, and it's still continuing to help me. So I think, when you look at why we do things, part of it is also understanding like what the short and term and long term effects are. Now for me, I don't want to do DoorDash forever, and I've been I've recognized that. But what I've done is I've very skillfully and strategically looked at what I'm doing and why, and I figured out like what I needed in order to scale DoorDash back. So, by mid-November, I will have scaled DoorDash back to 2 or 3 nights a week instead of doing it the 5 to 6 nights a week I usually do it. And that's going to be good. It's going to free up a lot of time so I can focus on my writing more. And then my goal is going to be to basically write my way out of having to do DoorDash. So I've got a plan in place. And of course, once I stop door dashing as much, that's when I'm going to join the gym so that I'm continuing to exercise. I'm going to go swimming. I'm going to go weightlifting, and these are going to be things that are going to have more of are going to have as much of a good effect as the DoorDash does, because I mean, I'm doing the DoorDash, as I said, it's kind of help with the walking that I've had to do. But I realized that there are other things, like I need to do some weightlifting in order to take care of, the muscles and things like that. I share all this because these are all very mundane things that I'm talking about, yet they're very applicable. And I'm going to continue to monitor my spending. How much money am I spending? What am I spending it on? What do I want to be spending it on? What kind of experiences do I want to be having? These are the things that I'm going to be thinking about over the course of the next, well, really for the rest of my life, but certainly right now, I'm looking at it in relationship to the DoorDash, and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to scale back, these are the things that I need to change or work over or what have you, then I better make sure that I have a clear understanding of what exactly it is I'm getting into. So I think this is really important. And a lot of times, what stands out to me is that when people, do wealth magic, they don't always, or really any magic of any type, they don't always think about the mundane aspects, the things that have to be done. Like I use the example of like love magic or something along those lines. Like I'm not really an advocate for love magic, by the way. I'm actually pretty staunchly against it at this point. I don't think it works very well in the end. But I think that if you're going to do something like that, you better really have your ducks lined up in a row, and you better have done the work on yourself, um, so that you can handle what you bring into your life. I think if you're going to do love magic, you should really be doing it as self love toward yourself. That's kind of the big thing that I've been doing, and it's changed my life. And I'll be talking about that actually pretty soon here in one of the next videos. So I think when we look at magic, we have to look at the fact that we're really going to examine, what is it that we're doing? What are the practical considerations that we need to be applying to ourselves? What are the things that we need to be thinking about? But we also need to make sure, can we do the work? And if you don't have the right foundation in place, it doesn't matter. So, you do off magic to get a job, but you get into that job and you don't have all the right skills, then you either better learn those skills as quickly as possible, or be prepared to leave that job. It'll go easy come, easy go. Or it boils down to this: whatever magic you're going to do, make sure that you've got the mundane side of it handled. If you don't, then you've got no business doing that magic at that time. You need to focus in on figuring out the skills you need to apply to yourself, so that when you decide to employ magic of any type, you're ready to handle the results and the consequences that come with those results. And again, I'm not saying this is always easy. I'm not saying it's always going to work. I am saying, though, that you have a much better chance if you actually are applying the mundane. One of the ways that I've applied the mundane to my life really is I do know when to scale back on the magical work. For the last few months, I've been doing some magical work, but most of the magical work has really been around doing internal work. I've been sorting through some different things and experiences, and kind of really taking responsibility for the things that I need to change in my life. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this self-love work that I've alluded to. I've come to recognize that I've come to recognize that fundamentally I have to master the mundane aspects of my life in order to really capitalize on the magical aspects. If I'm going to do magic for manifestation, then I better make sure that the manifestation can actually be handled and accepted. And I mean, I've been realizing this for a while, really the last few years, but I think that really what has brought it into focus for me is fundamentally a recognition that there's never too much internal work a person can do. There's too little. And I see this with a lot of people who practice magic, where they just don't do enough internal work. They're focused on trying to live a comfortable, problem-free life, and they don't realize that life is never problem-free. You're not going to go through a period of time where you don't have problems and you don't encounter struggles or things like that. That's just life. And it's how you prepare for those struggles that makes a difference. And I think that's a huge part of mastering the mundane. So when you're looking at wealth magic, you have to think, like, how am I going to handle the struggles that inevitably come up? One of the reasons why I've kept doing some of the stuff I've been doing, like DoorDash, for example, is because I've been trying to build my savings up to a certain point. And now it's building my checking account up to a certain point. It's being done partially to create a stable lifestyle now, but it's also being done to anticipate potential challenges that will inevitably occur, because that's life. So share that with you, and I hope you find it helpful. Remember that when you're going to do magic, if you haven't handled the mundane aspects, and this really applies to any aspect of wealth, and I look at wealth in terms of health, friendship and love, money, all of it. If you haven't mastered the fundamental aspect on the mundane thing as it applies to you, don't do magic for it. Just don't. You're not doing yourself a favor. You're just going to muck your life up a lot further. And, it's not worth it. Master Master the fundamental of the mundane and then apply magic to it, and that's when you'll get the results that change your life in a permanent way, or at least a long-term way. And I think that is much better than just going for short-term results.